there is a formula that describing how many words in a minute you can read. And it looks like this: word per minute, or VPM, equals to word in a text divided on amount of minutes that you spend to read them. For example, if you have text with 500 words and you spend 5 minutes to read it, you can divide 500 words into 5 minutes and you get 100 words per minute. The problem with this formula, it doesn't reflect if reader is really understand the text. So we can add to this formula comprehension factor. This comprehension factor describing how many questions you answer correctly. So the final formula can look like this: amount of words divide on amount of minutes multiply on this coefficient. For example, if you have text with 500 words and you read it for 5 minutes and you answer correctly 8 questions out of 10, comprehension factor will be 0.8, and the final result will look like this: 500 words in a text, divide on 5 minutes, and then multiply it on 0.8, because you answer correctly 8 questions out of 10. So result will be 100 words per minute multiply on 0.8, and your approximate reading speed will be 80 words per minute. Why 10 questions? Well, you can use any amount of question you wish to, but for easy calculation 10 sounds perfect, because it's enough questions to check if you really understand the text that you read, and it's easier to transfer 10 questions to some comprehension coefficient. For example, if you answer to 1 question correctly, it will be 0.1. If you answer on 5 questions correctly, it will be 0.5. And if you answer correctly on all questions, it will be 1. In the video description, I can leave a few text with questions so you can check your reading speed. My advice is to follow 3 simple hacks. The first one: don't move your eyes from left to right and from right to left. Draw imaginary vertical line in the middle of the text and follow it, so you scan the most of the text by your peripheral eyesight. Step number 2 is to differentiate your text in a smaller part. First, you read in the title of the text, then you check who's the author of the text and when it was made, as well as source of this text. And finally, you look at the facts from this text. It's good to look at the title of the text because usually describing the main idea of it. It's good to look at the author of the text so you can at least remember who made it, as well as if it's trustful or not. It's good to look at the text source so you will see if it's really trustful or not, or if this source works for your purpose. For example, if you're doing some scientific research, sources like tabloid news, TV programs, and even course books or Wikipedia are not considered as a scientific sources. The easiest way to prove if the source scientific is to look at the number of this text. If this text has some special ID number that is searchable in scientific resources, you can trust this text more. Then you thinking of the facts from this text. But again, don't read whole text word by word. The key here is to visually identify the maximum amount of facts from this text. So your eyesight can be stopped if you see the dates, names, formulas, definitions, or maybe unknown words. Some facts can even be marked in a text, for example with bold or italic text. Sometimes you can see the facts directly in the beginning of the text or at the beginning of the paragraph, so you don't have to read long and most of the cases useless introduction. The date of the text, in some areas it's more important than the others. For example, date for the mathematical text in most of the cases less important than the date for the text in economy, politics, or in social studies. Why? Because ideas in this area changing quicker. For example, mathematical text that is 100 years old can still be applied in modern mathematics. But economy theories that are 100 years old not always works in a modern society. So you know how to scan the text by looking in the middle of the page. You know how to differentiate the text by dividing it in smaller parts. And finally, you need to get the main idea of the text. You do it in 3 steps. First one, you identify keywords. If you have text on a paper and you can use pen or pencil or something like this, you can mark keywords directly. If you in the middle of exam and you cannot do something like this, you can at least visually mark where the keywords are placed. Then try to combine these keywords and key phrases. And finally, make a summary of it. A good exercise is to get some text and create your own summary of it with 3 till 5 theses and 1 title of the text. Why I prefer 3 till 5 theses? Because it's just easier to remember. The numbers more than 7 is hard to remember for our brain. I personally prefer 3 till 5 theses that describing the text. In addition to this video, I will add some texts that you can use to check your reading speed. Make an experiment. The first text, read as you read it normally and try to answer the questions, and then calculate your reading speed. And the second one, you can read according this 3 steps algorithm. First, you scanning the text, not reading. Then you differentiate the text in a different part. And finally, make a summary of this text. And at the end, again, calculate your reading speed. And then compare 2 results. I personally use these methods to quickly read news or maybe long emails. But I'm not recommending to use these things all the time, because sometimes it's just nice to read some fiction book in a normal speed.